Would you want to be represented by an organization that doesn't reflect your values? What if that organization actively opposed everything you believed in? That conundrum is exactly what public workers face when they are not in a union, yet still bound by exclusive representation laws. This isn't clickbait. Unfortunately, this is very real, and we have two high-profile lawsuits that are fighting it right now. This is the new Frontline. My name is Siena, and today we're going to talk about why exclusive representation is a broken system and what's being done about it.
Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look.
Exclusive representation is a concept within labor law that allows a union to act as the sole bargaining representative for all employees in a bargaining unit, regardless of if they are a member of that union or not. That means that you can opt out of paying dues, but you can't opt out of being represented. And if that makes no sense to you, then you are in good company. Because exclusive representation essentially nullifies a worker's right to choose. Because it tells you that whether you like and support a union or not, you are still bound to be represented by them when it comes to workplace negotiations. It's an unjust practice no matter how you look at it. Because if you're a non-union public worker, how are you supposed to believe that a union will negotiate for you in good faith when they know that A, they aren't getting any money from you, and B, that you have explicitly chosen not to associate with them? Or even if we play devil's advocate here, how annoying would it be to be a dues-paying member of a union and know that people who aren't paying dues are seemingly getting the same representation rights as you? How is that fair? It's not fair, actually. That's the answer. It's not fair. It's never fair. Unions know this, and they use this concept to bully and strong-arm non-members into doing what they want. Because exclusive representation makes it so it's the union or bust. They don't even give you an illusion of choice. Now let's look at a few examples that make this particular issue impossible to ignore. The first is our lawsuit against the United Teachers of Los Angeles, UTLA, and the Los Angeles Unified School District on behalf of a group of Jewish teachers who have been forced to be associated with a hateful, anti-Semitic, pro-terrorist union. These teachers have chosen not to be union members. Yet because of exclusive representation laws, UTLA is still their legal representative, and that's a big problem. Because UTLA has openly promoted messaging that these teachers say is anti-Semitic, politicized, and hostile to their very identity. If you're in tune with what Freedom Foundation does, you likely already know a little bit about this case, as two of our plaintiffs, Amy Lesserman and Barry Bliston, have been especially active in speaking out against the actions of UTLA. This lawsuit was filed on October 7, 2024, which is exactly 1 year after the terrorist organization Hamas initially attacked Israel. It represented initially 4 teachers and was amended on November 25th of 2024 to add 3 new teachers to the lawsuit, all of whom are teachers who are dedicated to their craft and are especially brave and bold to come out to speak out against UTLA and what they're promoting. And I feel like it should be pretty clear here when I say that unions are bullies, because if there was really nothing to fear, no retribution to fear when speaking out against the actions of a union or in contrast to what a union believes, then we wouldn't need a federal lawsuit to get their attention. In this lawsuit, all 7 complainants, who are Jewish, have emphasized and shown proof that UTLA has publicly expressed anti-Jewish views, engaged in advocacy against Israel, and discriminated against Jewish teachers. UTLA has been promoting a wicked agenda that attacks these teachers who don't want anything to do with the union anyway. Specific examples of all of this include UTLA has endorsed an anti-Jewish curriculum, including courses like Teach Palestine, which deliberately misrepresent Jewish history. UTLA has excluded Jewish and Zionist members from its private Facebook group, which is straight up discrimination. And the UTLA Human Rights Committee has provided funding to enable union members to attend anti-Jewish rallies. How can you be a human rights committee yet advocate literally against the rights of other humans? Make it make sense. This is utterly bizarre. UTLA hates these teachers. They hate them. They have been outspoken against their existence. They've discriminated against them. And yet for some godforsaken reason, they still insist on an ironclad grip on them via exclusive representation. UTLA, you cannot claim to be a union that cares about teachers and treat teachers this terribly. UTLA's insane treatment of these teachers is just criminal, in my opinion. And while I condemn their actions entirely, you know what would make the situation better? You know what would make it just like a little bit better? If the teachers in our lawsuit were allowed to actually follow through with the choices that they've made and step out from under the umbrella of the union. But because of exclusive representation laws, UTLA has the right to represent the interests of these teachers. How backwards is that? How utterly insane is that? A union, by law, is allowed to represent people whom they hate. The other case I have to reference here is a new case filed recently in Oregon, contending something very similar. Freedom Foundation is suing the Portland Association of Teachers, PAT, on behalf of a Jewish teacher who is also being held to the union via state laws that enforce exclusive representation. The issue is eerily, uncomfortably similar. A Jewish teacher whose trust in the system has been abused and is forced to be associated with a union that advocates for things that deeply conflict with their religious beliefs. The teacher in Oregon has been subject to harrowing hostility at the hands of a union they want nothing to do with. Yet by law, again, they are forced to be associated with them and accept representation. Some specific examples from this lawsuit include PAT co-authored the teaching guide called Teach Palestine, and in it the guide encourages teachers to use their classroom as a platform to promote an entirely one-sided presentation of the Israel-Palestine conflict. PAT defends the use of the phrase, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." I hate that I even had to say those words out loud, which is a well-known reference to the total annihilation of the state of Israel. PAT union representatives put up pro-Palestine symbols, including the Palestinian flag, in common areas of the school, and PAT representatives set up meetings at school to talk about Palestine and created prayer circle events at school for supporters of Palestine to engage in. Honestly, though, whatever your thoughts are on the Israel-Palestine conflict, and really hear me when I say this, I hope you can at least agree that if you are of one mind about it, you should not be forced to associate with a camp of the other mind. You are truly entitled to your free speech and your opinions and your free expression, and you should be able to associate with people who align with your beliefs and your opinions. But unions don't think so, and they promote things like exclusive representation to rob employees of their rights. And to play devil's advocate again a little bit here, if the roles and actions and situation was reversed, the woke left would be in an uproar about how diabolical it is to be told to sit down and shut up and forcefully associate with people you do not agree with. The whole thing is backwards, completely ridiculous. To talk about it more is Freedom Foundation Litigation Counsel Timothy Snowball.
So I think the way to think about these issues is to make the distinction between people who have freely joined unions and people who are working in jobs where they're represented by unions, but they're not members. So for the former group, you actually, in most cases, signed a card, hopefully freely looked at it and decided, hey, I want to be a member of the union, and they can spend my money, doing all kinds of wacky stuff. For the latter group, you're forced to associate with the union just by virtue of your job. So they tell you, when you get a job as a public school teacher, like the case in California, you're going to be represented by this union, whether you like it or not, and they are going to be speaking for you. Now, that I think would be okay if they were only speaking about the things that unions are supposed to speak about: wages, hours, working conditions, those classical kind of ideas of what unions are supposed to do. Unfortunately, in the modern era, that's not how public sector labor unions work. They actually take your money and they treat it like a political piggy bank, and they go out and they use it for all kinds of wacky stuff. So in the specific cases that we're talking about today, you've got a group of Jewish employees who are being forced to associate with these unions when the unions are going out and basically saying whatever they want to say in terms of the Jewish state, the state of the war in Palestine, all these different things. Unions have free speech rights. I'll be clear on that. Unions, like everybody else, have free speech rights. In the United States, you have the right to go out and say dumb stuff. You have the right to go out and say offensive stuff. That's how the First Amendment works. But what you don't have the right to do is to speak on other people's behalf. And so these Jewish teachers are forced, because of the way the law is set up, to be associated with these groups who hate them, who hate their religion, who hate the state of Israel. And that's really the crux of the problem. For a lot of Jewish folks, the idea of supporting the state of Israel is a religious tenet. And so for these unions to go out and basically say all of this negative stuff about Israel while they're representing these people is forcing them to betray their own consciences. Folks feel like when they go against the union, they're going against the mafia or something. And it's not, it'd be bad enough if it was just, chatter around the water cooler or something, or, employees or, coworkers giving you a dirty look or something for what you're doing, fighting back against the union. But a lot of these folks are actually really, really scared. And there have been documented cases of people being retaliated against for filing lawsuits or for speaking out publicly, against the union. And so these folks, it's more than just kind of awkward workplace situation stuff. They're really scared that they're going to have a supervisor come after them. The supervisors and the unions are supposed to exist in this adversarial relationship, but a lot of times these guys are buddies. They work together, and so folks wind up being really, really scared. And it's one of the reasons I always tell our clients, especially the foundation, that they're really the heroes of what we do. I mean, we are in the business of fighting back against this stuff. And I think for us, it's easy to go, oh yeah, this is unconstitutional and we want to file a lawsuit and everything else. But for, regular folks, they're really the ones who are taking a lot of the risks and are really the heroes of this and putting themselves on the line to fight back. Again, the primary issue here is even if they pitch you on union membership and you say no, they can still force you as a condition of your job to associate with these people. And in most any other situation, a judge would look at this, or automatically anybody would look at this. I mean, the government wouldn't even try this because it's so obviously unconstitutional. And so this goes back into the history of public sector labor unions where these groups are almost given a pass or they're given a freebie to be able to do this unconstitutional stuff because they're supposedly acting, again, in the public interest.
The woke left is hypocritical, and these people have no problem denying free speech until, of course, it happens to them. And that's why UTLA and PAT and other unions like them have no problem denying these teachers their rights. This is precisely the reason why we have such an active legal team here at Freedom Foundation. You deserve the right to choose your associations and who gets your voice and support. We wholeheartedly believe in this fight. Unions, however, do not. The fight for tomorrow starts today. Now, unions may have started this battle, but we are here to finish it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time right here at the new Frontline.